Well, let's clarify. We don't hear it from across the nation. We hear it from a few select cities, especially Chicago, where we've seen 3,000 shootings or more just this year. This is horrific, and it's something that we have to address. But we have to understand that it's not the guns. That this is a situation where we're dealing with criminals that are not being effectively addressed, and they have to be effectively addressed, and we have to make sure that we have judges that are making the right decisions, and we're not allowing for recidivism, so where if somebody has a weapon and they use it, or even if they're carrying it while they're perpetrating crime, we need to be extremely harsh. And then all of a sudden, guess what? We'll start seeing the guns pull back. When we see politicians come out and say, we're going to make stronger laws, the only people that they're affecting are the law-abiding citizens, which are already following the laws. The criminals, they're not reading the laws. They don't care about the laws. We can make the most strict gun laws in the world, and we would still have criminals carrying weapons. So this is where we have to really look at this from a rational standpoint. People all the time say, well, what about assault weapons? Well, the reality is we've tried an assault weapon ban, and it had absolutely zero effect on crime. So this is where we have to look at what are we trying to affect. And this is where, again, if we're looking at this rationally, and we say, okay, let's find the state that has the lowest gun murder rate across all of our 50 states. And whatever that is, whatever laws they have, certainly it's working. Let's implement that across the nation. Great. Vermont, zero gun laws. Okay, well, let's look at the second one. New Hampshire, zero gun laws. So if that's the case, then it's not the guns. There's something else, because if anybody can get a gun there and they're not killing people, there's not murder rates there, there's something else. And this is really where we have to figure out, why are we creating situations in Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, New Orleans, Washington, D.C.? Why are there unique pockets here? And I would say that there are economic policies that are destroying those cities, that are not allowing for people to actually live and function in a lifestyle that we would want. And as such, we need to figure out how we're going to embolden these people and give them the opportunity to thrive to where they're not living in a violent environment, to where they must have guns. And this is a challenge, because when we then impose greater gun laws, now all of a sudden the individuals that want to defend themselves in these horrific environments, they don't have the ability to defend themselves. So this is where we have to make sure that we're doing the right things, and we're not just coming out as politicians and saying, look, I've passed the gun law. Look at how good this is. We saw this with the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act was purely cosmetic, that all it did was it changed the way a weapon would look. And we can buy the exact same weapon here in any gun store, but it just has minor cosmetic changes. Instead of a pistol grip, it has a different type of a stock. And instead of it being black, it's wood. And these are things where people who don't understand weapons, they don't understand what's being done here. And it sounds like we're doing good, and we should do good, but we have to make sure that it's effective. It doesn't just sound good.
What about things like Columbine or Newtown, those kinds of shootings?
They're horrific, but what law would have stopped those type of situations? That's the problem. The laws wouldn't have stopped that. What would have stopped that, had we had stricter security, had we had limited access. So here's the thing. I've actually been an anti-terrorism security advisor for Southern California. And one of the things you realize is that you will not be able to stop every terrorist. Anybody who's willing to die in the commission of a crime is almost impossible to stop. But what you can do is you can deter it. And you can try and make push the threat to another situation or another area. The one areas where we should be the strongest in our security are our schools, our children. This is our most precious commodity, if you will, our precious asset here in the United States is our children, and yet we have gun-free zones. Well, all gun-free zone says is, come on in, you can't get shot. And remember, the people who are doing these shootings, they're not heroic. They're not looking to get into gun battles. They're looking to harm innocent civilians, and as many as possible. If they know that there's a potential for them to get hurt before they're going to do that, such as a limited access entryway and security guards, guess what? They will go elsewhere. And that's the problem, that we're not looking at it from a rational standpoint. We think gun-free zone, that the criminals, the bad guys will say, oh, gun-free, I can't go there. Well, that's not true. And unfortunately, it's a misperception. It sounds good. It's a law that was passed, gun-free zone. Politicians get votes for that, but it's not effective. And we need to make sure we're doing the right things and we're protecting people, especially our children, to make sure that they're not getting shot, because that is horrific.